Welcome to the Architect My Business podcast. I'm Aya Schlachter, your host, founder, and CEO of MGS Global Group. We provide architectural drafting and rendering services for busy firm owners and designers. Recently, we added new services such as bookkeeping and digital marketing. I put aside my dream of being an architect and pivoted to serve architects. Since then, I've never looked back. MGS Global started as a part-time gig when I was a new mom drafting for architects in New York City. Now we serve small to large firms and publicly traded companies in retail and hospitality. The best part? I get to help architects maintain a better work-life balance so they can do more of what matters most. From starting out solo to now leading a team of over 45 and growing, I've learned a thing or two about making a business thrive. Whether you're thinking of starting, already managing, or want to take your business to the next level, this podcast is for you. Each episode is packed with simple, actionable tips in leadership, people, marketing, processes, and of course, profit. I keep things real. Like you, I've got no time for fluff. This podcast is brought to you by MGS Global Group. Now, let's get into this episode. Hi everyone, Aya Schlachter here, and welcome to the Architect My Business podcast. This podcast is a business growth podcast for architects. I started my firm or my company without any business background, and I really wished I had all the resources that I wish I had when I was starting off. I made a lot of mistakes in the past, but was able to really learn from all of them. And now I'm able to thrive through all of the experiences I've learned in the last 15 years of running a business. A little bit about myself. I grew up with an entrepreneurial family. My mom was a stay-at-home mom for the first few years when we were growing up. And she started her catering business. She sold bread and made baked goods for friends and family. And later on, she started a small jewelry company that turned into this massive jewelry export manufacturing company and had 300 employees. So as a child, I knew that, entrepreneurship was a thing. I knew entrepreneurship was for me because I didn't know any better. My dad, on the other hand, was an attorney. He was a lawyer. He started his own law practice, again, also as an entrepreneur. So I always say I'm an entrepreneur by DNA. But I have no training as an entrepreneur and I don't have any business background. But I knew as a young child that I wanted to start my own business. I didn't know what it was. Here I am today running MGS Global Group. It's an architecture drafting company. And one of the two moments that really shaped my career or my business were the recession in 2008 and also the COVID pandemic when I was really struggling. But I was able to, manage to continue my company without having to lay off employees. And this was not easy. I had a lot of mental toughness, a lot of decision-making strategies, and, a lot of financial difficulties during this time, but I was able to make it. So one of the reasons why I'm pivoting from Architect My Life podcast to Architect My Business podcast is because I really want to share my journey to all the creatives out there who have no formal business training. And this is what this podcast is really about, the Architect My Business podcast. I am in the architecture industry. It's a very niche industry and people in our space are very focused on architecture and construction. But the way I plan to structure this is through analogy, right? One of the reasons why my company MGS Global has really succeeded is because of learning by analogy. So what does learning by analogy mean? It's really taking other examples of different companies, whether it's a manufacturing company or a retail company or a fashion company, or even by nature, and seeing what type of concepts I can apply to my own firm. That's what I've been doing throughout the years of running my business. Like I said earlier, my mom had a bakery and also had a jewelry company. So in the bakery, she did time and motion studies for how many pieces of bread one person can produce, a baker can produce, to know about their profitability margins. I also started using Gantt charts when I was 12 and when my mom was running her manufacturing company. So as a child, I already knew all these concepts, and I knew that to be able to run a profitable business, I needed to be aware of time, motion, and also all the deadlines. So these are the concepts I learned when I was younger. So now running my own business, I always look at other companies that have succeeded. I read this book, High Output Management by I think Andy Grove. He was a CEO of Intel, and he runs his company, Intel, like a manufacturing plant, that every part is important. No matter what you do, whether you're the custodian who puts toilet paper in the bathroom or or the mechanic or the HVAC guy or the researcher or a billable or non-billable employee. Every aspect of the business is important to keep the business running. So those are the things that really I want to share in this podcast, the Architect My Business podcast. Really teach the concept of learning by analogy so that we're not tied to what the industry knows and what we're taught in the industry. One of the things that really contributed to my success was hiring consultants. A lot of people don't like to hire consultants because it's expensive. They think of it as an expense, but no, consultants are not an expense. It's actually an asset to your company, and it's a valuable asset, and it's an investment. One of the biggest consultants that I consult with every quarter is an innovation consultant. Why innovation consultant? Because we always want to stay ahead. We want to know our blind spots so we don't get stuck during a recession, or we know where to pivot right before a recession happens. And that's what I've been able to do during COVID and 2008 recession. But again, I made a lot of mistakes, which is why I hired the right consultants. So as architects, we want to do everything ourselves. We want to be in control of every aspect of our business. But when you do that, it's very difficult to make time for other things like business development or marketing, digital marketing, or just meeting other people. A lot of architects in general tend to stick to their own group and bubble, when it's good to diversify your friend group and places where you can learn from. So that's one of the reasons why I'm really excited about the podcast. I will be inviting different guests, different consultants. Some of my consultants that I've hired throughout the years, some of my team members who have helped the company grow to where it is now. Right before COVID, we were really close to shutting down. I had 8 employees. I never laid them off. But now, 3 years post-COVID, we're now at 45, including a nearshore team in Colombia, Bogota. So how did that happen? Future-proofing your business, being able to really find your blind spots, investing in the right consultants, and really having a really strong mindset that you're able to succeed. So 2 years ago, I got accepted to speak at the Women's Leadership Summit. And my topic was growing into a financially successful firm, unlocking strategies and mindsets. This talk was very successful that I even had 2 or 3 people reach out to me and ask me if I can train their companies, their firms, in terms of all of the things that I taught them about people, process, profit, human resources, business development. Because again, learning by analogy, I never learned in architecture firms strictly. I learned from other industries. So I spoke at the Women's Leadership Summit and I had really great feedback, and people wanted more. And obviously, I don't have the bandwidth to go and teach and go to different firms, at least not yet. But I have a platform right now, the Architect My Business platform, so I can teach everything that I've learned on this podcast for free. This coming June 2024, I also got chosen to speak at the AIA National in DC. The topic is how to start your own firm, seizing the opportunity. It's a 90-minute workshop, again, for small firm owners. Even though I've been in the business for 15 years and we've now grown into over 45 employees, I also want to nurture the young people who want to learn from me on how to start a business, what to do before they start a business, what to prepare for before they start a business. Or are you ready to start a business? Do you have the right mindset to take the plunge and to take the leap? So again, I'm very excited. In June, I'll be sharing a lot of content about, seizing the opportunity and if it's the right thing for you. Here's what to expect in our upcoming episodes. We'll cover topics from setting up your business, finding cash for your business, some marketing strategies, digital marketing strategies, how to future-proof and recession-proof your architecture firm, processes. I'm a big process person. Like I said, I grew up with my mom and all these Gantt charts and streamlining operations. Process is really important. If you don't have process, you can never grow your business. Managing finances, accounts payable, accounts receivable, how to deal with difficult clients, creating communication protocols for your firm, how to set your company culture. Hiring is a big deal. How to find the right employees. Employee retention, how to keep employees so that they're happy, so that they can continue to serve your clients and grow your business. So all this is going to be covered in the Architect My Business podcast. I may be bringing in different consultants in finance, investors, angel investors, just because this is the way to future-proof your business and to find your blind spots. Also, our podcast, Architect My Business, will have 2 mini shows. One mini show is called Her Space. It's a women in architecture podcast, which is near and dear to my heart. Architect My Life was a women in architecture podcast, but we're creating a mini show called Her Space so I can still highlight women in architecture, thought leaders, our allies, share their stories. Because for me, Her Space is a sacred space for women, right? It's a different space when women can be open and to sharing our common experiences. So Architect My Life will be now Her Space, an all-women podcast for women architects and allies. And another short segment, a second mini show, which is Ask Aya. Any type of business questions you want to ask me, I will answer them in 8 minutes. You know, attention is our biggest asset, and yet a lot of people don't really have the attention span. So I opened up a new podcast called Ask Aya, where you just ask me one question and I'll answer any business related questions you may have. We will also release podcasts 3 times a week. On Mondays, the Architect My Business podcast, which is the main show. On Wednesdays, Her Space. And on Friday, Ask Aya. Thanks again for tuning in to the first episode of the Architect My Business podcast. I hope you share this podcast to all your friends who want to learn about business. They don't have to be architects, by the way, guys. You know, like I said, learning by analogy, you can learn from me, whether or not you're in the health space, you run a yoga studio or a restaurant. You know, we can all learn together from my experiences in running my business. I would also love to hear any suggestions of people who you think would be a good fit for my podcast. Women in architecture, allies of architects, accountants, bookkeepers, anyone who can help us grow. I'm really open to hearing from you. Again, thanks a lot, and I hope you listen to the next episode. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Architect My Business podcast. If you want more, head over to architectmybusiness.com for more episodes, show notes, and links to everything mentioned in this episode. Don't forget to catch our mini shows, Her Space, every Wednesday, Ask Aya, every Friday, and our main show, Architect My Business, released every Monday. If you enjoyed our episodes and want to hear more, please leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Your feedback really helps us grow. Stay tuned for the next episode. Bye!